I want to start this afternoon with two thoughts that I think are important, at least where our program comes from. I don't think you will have seen or heard anyone with our approach to the markets, and I'll tell you more about that as we go through the next 45 minutes. And second thought is we are in, as many of you know, a 24-hour market now. And in the 24-hour marketplace, if you're only trading during the U.S. session in the morning, starting at 8:30, and all the times, by the way, that I'm going to use today are Central Times. But if you're trading from 8:30 Central Time to 3:15 or 3 o'clock, depending on if you're cash or futures trader, then you're leaving almost 17 hours of valuable information that will make you a better investor and a better trader. And so those are the two concepts that I want to put on the table and then explore further this morning. If you would like to know, for example, how the markets are going to open in the morning, which a lot of us do, then you need to start watching and following the Globex. Now, when you hear the term Globex, that is the original platform or electronic market that most of you know trades overnight. And real quick, how many of you, and I see someone already saying got to sleep, but we solved that problem, because that was our #1 issue that we have had to deal with over the years. So how many of you have traded in the Globex or after hours market? Then that's the market that starts at 3:30 and trades till the U.S. market opens in the morning, and it's futures only. Because this will help me in which way to take this conversation with you this morning. Okay, it looks like about half and half so far, which is what we normally see. But I know many of you, when you wake in the morning, you hear about what trades took place, what the markets did overnight while you were sleeping here in the U.S. And let me get caught up here. All right, and what trades took place while you were sleeping, as I said earlier. And there's a whole market, for those of you who are not familiar with this, that takes place during the course of the evening that opens at 5 o'clock Central Time. And 5 o'clock, actually, guys and gals, is when the futures markets and the trading day really start in the world. And we, as I said, are in a world market. Now, when you now refer to the Globex, what I'm talking about is a market that was created by Reuters in conjunction with the CME, and it was mostly to accommodate Forex traders, because as many of you know, currencies, trade around the clock. And, you had folks that were working in the pits, and the volume at night was very, very slow. And I'm going back to the early 90s now. I'm dating myself. And these currency traders were expensive to have on the floor to maintain the equipment, and have the CME open when there was very light volume was expensive, so they created what we call today electronic trading. This was the grandfather of just about every electronic platform that you trade on today. Now, in the Globex, this market originally, it would open at 3:30 when the U.S. closed. It would trade through till 8:15 in the morning, and then it would completely shut down, and then the U.S. would trade completely separate from that particular market. Now it's seamless. In other words, you can put on a futures contract in the S&P at 5 o'clock in the evening and carry it till 4:15 the next day, and you will not have a margin call. So that is the seamless market, the Globex, that we're going to talk about this afternoon, and tell you our approach to it, because I doubt very seriously you have seen or heard anyone that approaches this market the way we do. Now, as I just said, the trading hours that we now have go from 5 p.m. till 8:30 in the morning, but they're actually seamless. The minute the market's open, like I say, you can continue to trade the same contract you started with at 4:15 in the afternoon. Now, one of our best advantages, I would say, for trading in this market is that the Globex, if you want to learn to trade futures especially, the market moves slower, it trends better, and this is one of my favorites. You don't have these computer buy and sell programs that cause such extreme volatility during the day. Now, I'm not going to tell you there aren't some computers that do some buying in the international markets that we follow, like Germany or the UK or the Hang Seng or Japan, but there are no direct buy and sell high-frequency trading programs that take place in this space. The trade signals that we've developed, they only work at night. They're not going to work during the day, even when you're trading the same E-mini contract. And because you have a slower market, you have less volatility. If you have less volatility, you can use tighter stops. Tighter stops, of course, are less risk. Now, we generally use a 2-point stop at night, and I'll tell you, and you know, that the 2-point stop is nothing. Now, many of you, while we go through this, are going to say, okay, and I've already seen some of the questions, you know, when do you sleep? You know, I can't stay up all night. I have a job. I have kids to raise. We know all that, and certainly that is a disadvantage. But let me just say a couple of things. One is that most of the folks who trade with us trade between 5 in the afternoon and midnight. That's when most of our trades take place. Then I would say about 30% of the folks that here in the U.S. will stay up and trade after midnight and trade the European session, as we call it, and I'll tell you more about that later as well. Then we have a tremendous amount of folks from overseas, mostly Australia and Europe, Asia, of course, that trade with us, and of course their nighttime is our daytime, and so it's just their daytime. When we're trading at night, this is a great space for them to trade in. But we recognize that we had a limited audience, if you will, and a limited appeal because folks couldn't stay up late. They just found it you know, a problem. Even though they were making money, they still had jobs and everything else that they had to consider and deal with. So during this conversation, what I will talk about is that not only do we have the only approach to trading the markets at night when the U.S. is sleeping, and trust me, if you want to learn to trade futures, this is the best place to learn. It's not complicated, it's not difficult. We are expanding our program to what we call the Trader's Den 24, where we will have the only live, and let me say this again now, live chat room monitored, where traders, professional traders with experience, will be in the room to call trades around the clock. So what does that do? Well, that expands our market at night so that folks who want to trade at certain times during the day, maybe during your lunch break, maybe during the first 2 hours after the U.S. opens, maybe you want to trade after work and trade with us in the Globex session. They'll be able to trade different markets at different times of day, currencies, bonds. We even have a guy who calls some corn trades who's on here with me now, I believe, Harry, if you see him answering questions. All these are experienced traders with great track records and have been around the block trading futures for a very long time. The same with calling stock options and equities. So it is, as we know, as far as we know, the only 24-hour live chat room with real professional live traders helping you navigate the markets around the clock. You can come in and out anytime you want to, anytime it's convenient for you, anytime it fits your schedule. or any particular market that you think you want to build your skills in and learn to trade. For example, we have found, and we've just launched this, I guess you could still call it a pilot or trial system, because we launched it in the middle of July, and it's doing extremely well. And when you're trading in a 24-hour live chat room, you also spread your risk. So let's just say I lose money at night in the marketplace, because, you know, we all have losing trades. And then let's say Harry or Mike or Roy, some of our other traders, come in and they have a good day. You spread your risk. Let's say that you want to trade only in the morning for 2 hours. Then, you know, we can fit that as well. Or you want to trade during lunch or after lunch. Again, it not only fits your schedule, but we have different markets, different financial futures that are being traded, options, stocks. And let me just preface this, we have not filled up the 24-hour clock yet. We're in the process of filling it up. And if you join the room now, you will be grandfathered at the lower price. Once we get the 24-hour room up and running and we have our 24-hour around-the-clock trading taking place, then obviously we have to raise the price, because these folks that are calling trades need to be compensated. Now, I'm going to get back to the Globex in a minute, and then I'll tell you how we've expanded it and how we've taken that particular program that's been very successful over the long many years, as you heard Joe or Reed actually just say, and have expanded it now to take into the consideration that there are folks who, again, in the U.S. want to sleep. There are folks in the international world that want to trade at different times and trade different markets. Now, in addition to just trading in the Globex, there is also the ability, for those of you who are not familiar with it, to hedge. Now, you go home with a portfolio during the day, you're fat and happy, and you are happy with the direction that the market's taken, you're making money, and then you turn on CNBC in the morning and you find out that something's happened overseas, that a major bank in Europe has failed, or that Greece is in default, or there was a tsunami in Japan, or there was a Lehman Brothers event like we had in 2008. I don't know why this is, but I find it amazing that generally all these major news events that affect the markets in a dramatic way, usually that news happens at night while everyone else in the U.S. is sleeping. And we get to take advantage of that news because we're up, we're watching the markets, and we're trading. So that is the marketplace that we call our sandbox, but because we found that it was somewhat a disadvantage because of the hours that it kept, that's why we've expanded to the 24-hour room. Now, the chart I'm putting up, as you see now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I only have so many minutes this morning. But this is what a hedge would look like if you wanted to try to hedge your account overnight with one S&P contract. If there's an event and there's something that concerns you and you want to hedge your portfolio, let me say it again. This is the only market, the only place that you can run to in order to put on a hedge and try to at least lock in your profits on your portfolio, where you don't have to wait for the market to gap down 200 points in the morning. So if I leave you with anything today, when we part company, remember this one. If you're not aware of the 24-hour market, if you're not aware of what happens in the Globex, if you're not aware of how to at least in a minimal way, even if you're not going to trade, access it and gather the information that it can provide you, you're at a huge disadvantage when you're trying to invest or trade. Now, I've heard a lot of traders this morning. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this. What's the difference in an average trader and a successful one? And just like anyone else, you have to have a plan, you have to have a discipline. Now, in the next few minutes, what I want to try to cover are key market times, our proprietary signals and indicators that we use. Now, this Greekism that I'm sure is all Greek to you, a little pun there. We have I would venture to say, and of course I have no way of proving this, we have one of the friendliest, nicest chat rooms you will ever be a part of. And, you know, when you're up at night and the markets can be slow, it's like watching paint dry sometimes. But generally, you know, there's enough movement where you can trade and get your trades off at a good price with a good fill. But these Greekisms are a nickname given to certain events that take place in this market at night that I've cataloged and noticed over the years. For example, you know, the Monday after options expiration is usually an up day. Not every time, it's not 100%, but, you know, if I found something that worked 80% of the time, then I would, you know, adopt it, follow it, trade it, and to see if that's what was actually taking place. Now, while I am on that subject, all of the traders that that you follow, if you join our program, these guys are trading with their own money on the line, and they're making the trades the same they call for you. The only difference might be the size. So the point I'm making about our chat room is they tend to give each other nicknames and give nicknames to certain things that we do, and it's a fun group and a fun place to trade as well. And the guys and gals that are in our room are very helpful, especially the ladies. The ladies, and we have some of the better traders, I hate to say it, in our room, you know, are women. And they're more disciplined. I don't think that'll surprise you. But they're also more helpful when you ask a question and you want someone to try to help you if we're not there in the room at the time to answer the question. Or they may have a different approach to the question than we have. And, of course, money management. Now, you've heard a lot of speakers today, and you're going to hear this over and over and over again from every one of us. If you do not have a discipline, you do not have a consistent money management program, you're just not going to make money on a consistent basis. That's just bottom line. So you have to have a good money management program, or you're just not going to be consistent in your efforts. Okay, so key market times. Now, this is why it's different from trading during the day. During the day, the U.S. market is its own market. U.S. news, U.S. economics, that's really what controls unless there's been news from overseas. But at night, the markets that will move, the S&Ps, the mini S&P, and also let me say during the Globex session, during my session, you know, where we start at 5 o'clock and go till roughly 3 or 4 in the morning usually, and we'll go longer if necessary. Sometimes we may stop at 2 o'clock in the morning, Thursday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning. You know, we had a pretty good night. We made our goal, and we went ahead and went to bed early. Those are my favorite nights. All right, so the Asian session, that is the market that runs from 5 o'clock till 12 o'clock Central Time, and that's when the control, the E-minis, is basically affected by the Hang Seng and the Nikkei. Now, some of you are going to ask me, well, what about Australia that's open during that time? And what about New Zealand or South Korea? Yes, those are important economies. Those are important markets, but the bottom line is they don't move the S&Ps. And those are the kinds of things it's taken me years to figure out. All right, so the controlling markets during the Asian session from 5 to midnight are the Hang Seng and the Nikkei. Then we start to slow down between, say, 11 o'clock and 12. It gets kind of quiet because we're about to hand over to the European session. And in the European session, we define that as the market that trades from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. And, you know, once you get past 5 a.m., you're starting to see the U.S. Starting to, again, dominate what the markets are going to do, assuming, of course, there hasn't been any major news in these markets while you slept. Now, the two markets that will affect the mini S&P are the DAX and the FTSE. So what's different? Here's just a prime example. What's different at night or in the Globex or early morning, depending on what you want to say. What's different is you don't have to worry about where the DAX is going or the Hang Seng's going or the Nikkei. You tell me which way these markets are going during their sessions, I can tell you which way the S&Ps are going, and that's all we're interested in, is trying to find the direction of the S&P so that we can trade it successfully. Now, here's another example. China, a communist country, we all know that, but it's hard not to picture it sometimes as being a capitalistic country. We often forget that it's still dominated by politics and the hands of a few, and it is a communist system, but it is a major trading partner in the world now. We all know that. They just took over Japan as the #2 economy. Now, 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, you really didn't care about what was going on in China from an economic standpoint. But guys and gals, you better know today. And that's why I say it's important that you know what's going on in these markets, at least when you get up in the morning, you're able to maybe scroll through and see what took place. If you don't know what China's GDP is or PMI, it will move the markets in the U.S. at least early in the morning. Now, in the Globex, it'll affect them immediately, but then again, it just depends on how the U.S. is going to trade, because sometimes the U.S. market will go along its way. But during the course of the evening, it could affect the S&Ps if it was a negative number or positive. How many times have you woke up in the morning, turned on CNBC or Bloomberg, and they started talking about the PMI or GDP in China came in, and the market started selling off, and their S&Ps are going to open negative this morning and maybe just start to turn around later in the day in the U.S. Today you better know. 5, 6, 7 years ago, it really didn't matter. That's why I think we all understand we're in a 24-hour market, and you better know what's going on in the 24-hour marketplace. So again, the key window for this session before we started to expand into the 24-hour market is from 5 to 5 a.m. The technical times is it trades at the U.S. futures close at 3:15. Then they resume trading in the Globex at 3:30. They'll go on break at 4:15. That's when all the futures and various platforms reset for margin requirements and what have you. And then we start the new day for trading futures. And what's going to affect how you trade in the U.S., and I can't overemphasize this, the actual trading day, I don't care who you are or what markets you trade, it really starts at 5 o'clock in the evening. And it's that market and what happens during that time frame that could very well affect how the markets will trade in the U.S. So if you're ignoring what's going on in the Globex session or in these overseas markets, you're missing out on 17 hours of valuable information that will make you a better trader. Now, what we like to think is we take advantage, of these markets while everyone in the U.S. is sleeping. But again, I think we've solved that problem by having a 24-hour room that we'll talk about some more here shortly. So, pivot times. They're important because there are certain times of night when the markets are known to move. For example, the DAX in Germany starts trading at 1 a.m. Central Time, and somewhere around 12:30 you'll start to see some movement in the market. So it's important when these markets open and close. The Asian markets actually take breaks, and it's important to know that as well. The DAX, the FTSE, the Hang Seng, and the Nikkei, those are the markets that we watch at night that can affect the S&P. Again, we're only looking for that affects the S&P and can move the market, not just at night, but possibly in the morning as well. You have to remember, we're a 24-hour room, but this is just when our day starts. Trading the dome. Most of you who trade futures, you're familiar with this particular tool that you have on your platform. It's called the depth of market. During the daytime, for example, it just will not help you, but at night it is a valuable trading tool, and we teach you how to use that particular tool that most everyone has on their platforms. I don't know of too many platforms that do not have a dome. All right, now you're going to ask me at some point during this webinar, Well, what about the bonds and the yen or the currencies? We don't actually trade those now in the Globex, but there are traders who will call those in our 24-hour room. But I'm speaking right now about the session that starts, at 5 in the evening, goes till 5 in the morning. But we do follow bonds. We do look at the yen or the euro because there are times, especially in this world of what I like to call financial engineering, where you have all these central banks stepping on the gas pedal. If you have Abe in Japan who comes out and starts talking about stimulus and quantitative easing, or Draghi in Europe, you just never know which one of these central bankers are going to come out and change the entire look and profile of the market, which makes it very difficult here of late. And I don't mind telling you, but that's the world we live in right now. It can affect other markets, and one of the very first places that we look to, again, to determine direction, because if there's been some kind of event in Europe, example, Draghi, who just recently announced a very aggressive stimulus program for Europe because they are facing a period of deflation possibly, at least that's my opinion, and he's trying to prevent that from taking place because he does not want to go the way Japan went for years. In fact, that's what all central bankers fear more than anything, is either stagflation or deflation. Inflation, they have tools to fight inflation, but not these others. So that is the central banker's biggest concern in the world we live in today, especially in Europe, where we're seeing signs of deflation. So when a Draghi, to finish that thought, or an Abe announce a stimulus program, the very, very, very first place you're going to see the movement is in the currencies. It's in the yen or the euro, and that helps you find direction in the S&Ps. So yes, we do follow those markets. We just don't trade them again during this session. But we now have traders that are going to join our 24-hour trading den that will be calling these different markets. In fact, that's the one trader that we are now talking to and looking for. We're talking to several. Is someone to call currencies. That's probably one of the few markets that we lack that I'd like to have someone calling trades in. All right, so there are a lot of proprietary trade setups that we look for. I don't have time to go through all of them today, unfortunately, but we have the overnight short squeeze. One of my favorites, and that's when you have bad news during the day. In fact, we jumped on this Friday. You had last Friday, I think it was, you had the 142,000 non-farm payroll number that came in and disappointed everyone on the street. No one had that forecast. Even the most pessimistic didn't think we'd see 142. Markets sold off early on the news, and then guess what it did? It took off. What did we do into the close? We shorted it so that we could take advantage. And I'm saying the very last maybe 10 or 15 minutes of trading in the day, we put out an alert, we went short, and we took advantage of it on the opening and had a great Sunday night. The Globex, incidentally, starts trading at 5 o'clock on Sundays. All right, I'm starting to run out of time now. I talked about the Greekism number 8 about option expiration. Now, these are not indicators, guys and gals. These are just broad concepts and patterns that we see over and over in the marketplace that we try to take advantage of. It's very different from the indicators we use to call trades. The indicators and the Greekisms or signals are two separate items, and try not to confuse those. The indicators are what we use immediate to find immediate direction in the market. The Greekisms or signals are, as I said, they're just patterns of events that take place in the market, a great deal of the time that we like to take advantage of. So some of the biggest mistakes that traders make is proper money management. We talked about that a few minutes ago. And I think most of you all have seen this one, over trading. A lot of folks have talked about this tonight, or today and this afternoon. You see I have tonight on the brain. Trying to hit home runs. We've seen that. Our last speaker talked about this and said, reward yourself for your efforts and your hard work and your discipline. Take profits out of your account on a regular basis. You'll be surprised what that will do for you psychologically. Now, trading too many contracts or not enough contracts. That is another problem that we see and that we try to help folks correct. Now, most of the folks who trade with us in the Globex session, they're looking for added income. They're not looking for action because, this is a slow, as I said, and steady market. It's, now if we have news, it can get to be pretty volatile. And we're not trying to hit home runs. We're trying to make 1, 2, or 3 points, in the evening or during the early morning. And if we can do that, then you'll meet your goal. And this is how we approach that as well. Let's say we'll put on 2 contracts. Let's take the numbers from the other night. We sold 99. I don't remember which night it was right now. And we sold 99. And we took half off at 97. We kept one. We call that runner. And then as the market continued to sell off, we were able to take advantage of the one we had left as a runner. Most of the folks who join our program, they're not in there for action, or they're not in there as trading, what I like to call trading cowboys. They're in there to supplement their income, and all we ask you to do is set a goal, a realistic goal. And let's just use this because this is just an example. If you want to add maybe $2,000 a month to your income, all you have to do in our program is make $100 a day or night or morning, depending on what you want to call it. Take 20 trading days and assume you're going to have some losing days, of course, and you can meet your goal. You want to make $4,000 or $6,000, then you just either trade more contracts or you just spend more time in the market. And we've addressed that, as I just said, by creating the 24-hour marketplace. So, in the market that I call trades in the chat room from 5 at night till the wee hours of the morning, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, depends on the market as to when we quit. Then we've had a great deal of consistency and success in helping folks supplement their income. So when we say in the Night Scalper program, don't overtrade. Learn the process, minimize your risk. Now here's a hard one, and this is the one where most people fall short that I find. When you reach your goal, quit. It's the hardest thing to do. I know it's hard for me. I can't tell you how many times I have reached my target or goal during the Globex session or after-hour session. Those two are synonymous. To only go back in the day market and make mistakes and give it back. Take a paycheck weekly or monthly from your account and reward yourself for your efforts, as I said before. All right. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these because I'm running out of time. The chart that you see, or projections that you see in front of you now, is kind of an example of what you will see if you're in our chat room. You can see over in the black box, those are international markets. And you have to have real-time Nikkei and Hang Seng quotes off of the Singapore Exchange. That is another advantage of our program, and they can cost you $20, $40, $50 a month to get what I call real-time Nikkei and Hang Seng quotes to trade in this space. You have to have real-time DAX quotes. You have to have real-time UK quotes, and we provide those in these rooms, so you don't have to go out and pay $40 or $50 a month to obtain them yourself. On the left, you see the charts that we use. And then in the middle, you'll see an arrow that's kind of blinking. You see a bar with the green and the brown. That's the Dome-O-Matic, which is the dome that we talked about early. And again, here's a slide of what that looks like. And basically, that's just an automatic way of following the markets rather than you having to watch the dome on your computer and kind of manually keep up with what's going on. All right, so here, I'm sorry again, we're getting only a few minutes left. Key market times, proprietary signals, Greekisms, and money management. You can ask me about performance. We have live trades called nightly. This particular time of night is moderated by myself. Real quick here, the returns. I don't want to flash this up and take it down without you having a chance to see it, but just email us at nightscalper.com and we'll be happy to provide you with this and other charts about the performance. As I said, if you want to learn to trade futures now, this is probably one of the most easy places, the most, and I've been doing this for longer than anyone you will meet or talk to. This is the place you want to do it because I've been teaching this, I've been trading it myself for years, and I will tell you that it is absolutely the best place to learn if you want to learn how to trade futures. Because as I said, it's a slower market. You don't have all these computer buy and sell programs like we have during the U.S. session. Slower moving, slower trending, and it's just an easier market to learn in. It's almost like a bike with training wheels, if you will. Again, if I leave you with anything, you should understand this market at least on some kind of simple basis, because if you don't, you're leaving a lot of information and a lot of indicators and news that can help you and make you a better trader. Now, the Trader's Den 24 that we talked about is now what we have. We've expanded the Night Scalper from just a night program to a 24-hour program. We have trades being called from, let me get my times right, from 5 in the afternoon till roughly 4 or 5 in the morning. Then we have someone comes in at 8 and they call trades till 11:30. There's 2 different traders from 8 till 11:30 calling S&Ps, corn, bonds, you name it. We're about to add an options trader, a DAX trader, and a currency trader. We're all working with those folks as I speak. All right, so here's our deal to see if everything that I said works like we think it will, and we say it will. You get the Night Scalper 101 course. You get all the information, indicators, and what have you in the course. You get 30 days access to the trade room. The first Tuesday of every month, we have extensive trading and education. It's all you can eat, if you will. All you can learn. It's not just a one-time deal. We don't charge you for, you know, this indicator and that indicator and then get you hooked and say, okay, if you want this, then you got to pay more money. You pay one flat fee when you join our program, and that's it. And you get all the useful tools, trade signals, you get the setups, the trades, you get the live traders. And as I said, this is also part of the 24-hour room that we're still building. We've almost got probably 3/4 of the clock covered, and hopefully soon we'll have the 24-hour room, 24-hour clock covered with live traders. Live chat room around the clock, trading different markets. We don't know of anyone that's doing anything like that. So from 8 to 11:30, we'll have scalping the E-mini and other futures. From 5 to 3, you have the night session that we've been talking about. And if you want to try it for 30 days, you know, if you learn one thing from one trader, or you learn one indicator from one trader, or one indicator, or just one piece of information that helps make you a better trader, then it's well worth $47 for 30 days. After the 30 days is up, it's going to be $147 a month to have access to a 24-hour room. Now, if you wait 2 months from now and you want to sign up and we have our 24-hour room, we have the 24-hour clock covered, it's going to cost $195 a month because, as I said, as we add traders, we need to increase the cost. So, $47 for 30 days to see if everything I just talked about works as I said. I think I'm about out of time, and we have support people, and again I apologize, our U.S. support people are at ball games as I said earlier, but we also have support people, you ready for this, in the Ukraine. So we have support people in both locations because we are truly an international trade room. And now, not only are we international, we're 24 hours covering different markets. So real quick, I'm going to see if there's some questions that I can answer. What is the account balance? I saw that one real quick. Generally speaking, most folks, if you're just starting to trade futures, I would recommend you have $3,000 to $5,000 because you only need 500 per contract you want to trade, so it's going to depend on the number of contracts. Why do you need Hang Seng and Nikkei for trading E-mini? Because if you're trading in the Globex session at night, those markets, the Hang Seng, the Nikkei, the DAX, and the UK markets, they will move the S&Ps until the U.S. opens in the morning. You don't need them in the morning. That's my whole point. But at night, if you're going to trade the session, you do need them. The web address is nightscalper.com. It's at the bottom of the screen that I currently have up. Let's see. Let me go back a little bit. Commentary in the room. We're in and out of the room all night. I mean, there's always someone in the room, a professional trader, to help guide you and help navigate you through the markets.